Welcome to Bible Study. This is the Bible study we're preparing for April 6th in 2025 at St. Michael's Lutheran Church. We've been studying wisdom literature since Christmas, and today we are in chapters 5 and 6 of the book of Ecclesiastes, and so you may want to turn to that and find your copy of your Bible handy and be ready to follow along with some of the things that we've said. One of the things, as we've noted before, that I really enjoy about Ecclesiastes and really the Bible in its entirety is that the Bible is afraid of no question. Job is able to question the justice of God. Here in Ecclesiastes, we have heard the preacher talk about, raise the questions that people oftentimes raise about the meaning of life, because what happens seems so random, and oftentimes it feels as though things that are that should be don't happen, that the wicked man prospers, that the good man does not, and that the world does not seem to follow the dictates of what is wisdom. He gives voice to a deep cynicism that people have, and which I think every human being at some point in their life shares. What I like about Ecclesiastes is he doesn't simply dismiss those questions. He doesn't simply say, "Oh well, you're just not looking at it right, or you're not believing right," or something like that, which is oftentimes the easy way out that Christians too often take. But rather he wrestles with it, and he wrestles with the fact that it is a good observation. How often don't we see somebody who does it all right and ends up suffering? Or on the other hand, someone who is in fact a scoundrel and ends up really leading a good life, or what looks like a good life to us. In chapters 5 and 6, he's going to kind of double down on something that he started to say last time in chapters 3 and 4. We want you to observe that he raises this issue of things that are under the sun, things that are inside this world in which we live, that are constrained by our experiences, our senses, the things that we are able to perceive. But when he does that, he leaves open, or he immediately is by that giving us an occasion to think about things that are not under the sun. As soon as he says it, you wonder, well, what isn't? And of course, God is not under the sun. But there is much that is associated with God that is both under and over the sun, to use that kind of language. And one of the things that lives there that he's going to talk about is beauty and the idea of an aesthetic. Aesthetic is the discipline of the study of beauty. And since ancient times, people have been really perplexed by this question. And without really coming to a good under-the-sun answer, which means that, of course, modern philosophy doesn't have much time for it. But this idea that there are some things which we find beautiful, enjoyable, that they are enjoyable simply for being what they are, not because they are things that you can draw a clean line between the beauty of something and its value. And yet, every culture, every society of human beings, at some point starts talking about making and doing things that are simply done and made because they are beautiful. Last week, he had said that God had placed eternity inside our hearts. Today, he's going to speak of a life that is lived that is purely instrumental, is a life that really isn't that great, but that a life which is lived, which is appreciative of beauty, is somehow better. That is a life which has meaning and purpose. Let's listen to some of the things that Solomon has to say to us. As I said, we're in chapter 5 of Ecclesiastes. He begins with some just wisdom about living life. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Draw near to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they are doing evil. Be not rash with your mouth. Let not your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words. He speaks of coming before God and being silent. We live in a time when the multiplication of words and even the multiplication of, YouTube videos seems to know no end. And we have come to a time and a place when silence is very hard to find. I've really come to appreciate the order of evening prayer we use on our Lenten services, because it calls for silence, just to be quiet before God. Sometimes I have thoughts that I need to think, but oftentimes I just need to be silent. I'm not accomplishing something. I'm not doing something. Rather, I am silent. When you do vow a vow to God, when you do open your mouth and say something, he says, do not delay in paying that vow. God has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. It's better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Let not your mouth lead you into sin, and don't say before the messenger that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the works of your hands? For when dreams increase and words grow many, there's vanity. But God is the one you must fear. Silence. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter. For the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He speaks here of lines of authority. He says, if you see injustice in your world, there are those who, the people who are allowing that to happen, or maybe who are perpetrating that, are accountable. They are accountable inside a government to those who are over them, but even over them, there is someone higher yet. There is an accountability. There is a divine governance. Notice how we keep slipping above the world and above the sun here. But this is always a good thing, he says, when you see a land with cultivated fields. Well, it's a rather strange thing for him to say, except that in the ancient world, it was always a citizen army. All the armies involved, they didn't have professional armies. That wasn't a full-time job. At least not for most people. There would be a handful of, army generals, captains of the groups, and there would be a handful of people who would be permanently the guards of the king or something like that. But for the most part, an army was a mustered citizenry. And, 90% of a nation, of the people at the time, were involved in the cultivation of food. And so if the fields are cultivated, the king is not going to war. If the fields stand uncultivated, if the crops are not harvested, if the fields are not planted, it's because the men are all off fighting some war for the king. This is a gain in a land in every way. A king committed to cultivated fields. That's a commitment to peace. The one who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is vanity. And here he's going to talk about this kind of instrumentalized or a world that is reduced to money. This as if one could measure a human being by their possessions, by how much they own, by the money they make. And we have a natural human tendency to do this. I mean, we even ask people, what do you do for a living? As if your living is your job. That's hardly but a part of it. And yet, our language and our culture oftentimes pushes us this way. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let them sleep. The good life is not found in the accumulation of wealth. Solomon isn't against having things. He's not against being wealthy or doing well. He's against thinking that means your life is good. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is a father of a son, but he has nothing in hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. I think I heard it from Don Henley in a song a long time ago that hearses don't have luggage racks. That a man you can't take it with you. And that oftentimes when we measure a life by what a person has, it's so tenuous. You can lose it all, and you can have nothing. And then what are you? If your measure of life is how much you have. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so he shall go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation, in sickness and anger. He's talking about this person who is constantly on the take, is constantly making, doing, and he eats in darkness. He never goes outside. And his life is full of vexation and anger and stress. Is that a good life? It might result in a lot of money, but is it a good life? Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and to rejoice in his toil. This is a gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. He's really saying, kind of stop and smell the roses. Enjoy those things that God has given you, the good meal, that glass of wine, whatever it is. Don't always be striving for more, but rather learn the virtue of some contentment in what God has given you. This is a good thing, he says, because it enables you to enjoy the blessings one has, rather than only to see them as an instrument for getting something else. Here is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavily on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. It's like that person who works and works and works and never is able to enjoy life. I've spent time with a lot of dying people. I've never had one tell me, I wished I would have worked more. But I've had many who said, I wished I would have enjoyed more. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, so he has no burial, I say, a stillborn child is better than that. That is a life without meaning. To have all of these things, to have this 100 children, and to have all of this wealth and things, but never to be able to enjoy it. That's meaningless. It comes in vanity, it goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything. Yet that stillborn child finds rest rather than he does. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over and yet enjoy no good, doesn't he end up in the same place as that stillborn child? Yes. There's more to life than work. There's more to life than the accumulation, the amassing, the stuff. All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage is the wise man over the fool? What does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better in the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity. It's a striving after the wind. We spend so much of our lives worried about things that just don't matter. Whatever has come to be has already been named, and is known what man is, and that he is not able to dispute with one stronger than he. The more words, the more vanity. And what is the advantage to man? Who knows what is good for a man while he lives the few days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell? For who can tell a man what will be after him under the sun? Back to that under the sun. Next week, we're going to skip ahead a little bit to the end, toward the end of this book, because there Solomon gives us a bit of an answer for what happens for that over the sun conversation. And hope and pray that we can have that conversation with you. God bless you. We'll see you Sunday.